Hey, how's it going, everyone? This is Magazone150, and it's time for the Technologist news. 3 articles, they're in the description. Let's get to it. So, 3 articles I chose. One about LibreOffice. Guess what? Since September 2010, they always had a struggle in trying to expand and grow their community. To be able to find more developers, to find more volunteers to help out with LibreOffice and all that its glory. Well, guess what? Excellent news. Now they are over 1,000 developers. This is awesome. This is a great news. It also means that they're going to catapult themselves forward and be able to be more innovative and expand on what and where they want to go with this community. But honestly, though, to make patches, to fix things, to make it more efficient, to expand into more platforms, more mobile, more cloud, right? This is an opportunity for them now that they have a big backing. So let's see what happens with LibreOffice. Just in case you don't know what LibreOffice is, equivalent to what you would normally see in Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, so forth. So, second thing on my second article that I thought was interesting was by the GNU Project. The GNU, or the Free Software Foundation, that straight up says, and to a certain degree I'm not surprised because Microsoft Windows is notorious for this, but it seems that with the release of Windows 10 it has gotten worse. We're talking about Microsoft being malware. Yes, you heard me. It is essentially being borderline, or probably more than that, atrociously malware. Now, thankfully, I'm not on Windows 10, and now with all this knowledge, I probably won't even be bothered to myself personally to go to Windows 10. I am quite happy with my Linux systems, anywho. But either way, I still need to know this stuff anyway, because I'm a computer technologist just in general. So I work with this stuff every day, anywho. But the thing is, what's interesting is how they go into details on how specifically Windows 10 is being at what they call malware type of software. It talks about everything from backdoors, which is not something new. It has had backdoors for NSA and so on, even in its earlier versions of Windows. But now they're talking about sabotage, which I've seen happen in Windows 7 platforms, where literally, if you neglect your update so much, it will literally hold your system hostage. SVC host will just have a memory leak, and you are in for trouble. And so that's why you should always update your system. So come on now, update your system. Come on, Windows users, don't neglect it. Even if you know that the way your updates are done are more of a pain in the butt than Linux ones, because, you know, for me it's literally just command line and away I go. But, or just a click of a button. Same way you would, except just not as a pain in the butt. But, I mean, with all jokes aside, I mean, seriously, it's all about surveillance, the issues with where's the line for privacy. It is literally grabbing your privacy in a tyrant and a more jailistic type of way, like a more jail way, where it literally will impose and censor the types of applications you use on your system. And it's even to the point where it will reject anything that is not authorized by the manufacturer. So literally the manufacturer is up to them whether or not their system, whether they're going to tell us or not openly is one thing, can actually be allowed to install alternative operating systems. Can I actually install Linux on the system? Well, we're going to have to find out with the manufacturer, because if it has Windows 10 on it, they're essentially going to try to say, no it doesn't, so GTFO, screw you. And of course, as usual, that angers the open source community, because we're supposed to be working together. Now, speaking of working together, have you noticed that in the third article that I'm explaining about now, is from the Linux Journal, by a good writer. He seems to be very curious about what we, the open source community, or you, just a normal user, or you, another, not even a Windows user at all, maybe you're a Mac user instead of a Linux user, right? And you just happen to be watching this video out of curiosity. That's awesome too, because that's what we talk about here on the Technologist News. I just talk about stuff that I find interesting, or when I'm out doing my job as a technologist, and I see all the time, and I do it out of my nonprofit, Magazone World. So, I mean, it is what I do for fun. And what's interesting is, has Microsoft actually, finally, have gotten more romantic friendship or relationship with Linux, or is this just more toxic love? affair that is going on. I mean, recently in the past years, you had Microsoft saying, we love Linux. They talked about how they're so open that they even created their own Linux system, their own OS, and how it specifically works with their infrastructure, with their Xia, right? And any of their other infrastructures that work together with Windows Server. So, I mean, honestly, if you want to hear my honest opinion about it, I would still be skeptical. Only because we know what Microsoft has done in the past to Linux, the mass amount of patent attacks, like patent threatening, the amount of propaganda, the way they tried to suppress us in the open source community, in the free software community, and so on. However, at the same time, we've seen where they've made tremendous progress in now realizing that they have to get with the times. They realize that, of course, Linux's rate of development is simply unmatched. Literally, millions of code. Every 3 to 4 months, you're literally getting a new kernel, a new operating system in the background. You just can't beat that in terms of security, unless you use even more sophisticated than you can ever imagine, or sometimes just it's more elaborate. You really have to put effort into it. So it makes Linux more secure. So it makes sense for Microsoft to hybrid things a little and to understand that, you know what, we're realizing that we really need it to do certain tasks. And that's important. That's one way that the open source community and Windows can actually really start working together to be able to actually put their differences aside and make some pretty good development, to make some pretty good application and innovations, which are always needed. Because in order to be open sourced and to be able to come up with the new innovation to make it better, well, someone just needs to spark a little bit of that entrepreneurial spark, that chance, to see where things can be changed, to see where things can be better, and just like that, we continue forward as a community. Nonetheless, that's just my opinion and my little 2 cents about these articles. They're in the description, so feel free to comment and talk about whatever you like or whatever we talk about here on Technologist News. This is Magnezo150, and we will talk soon with more Technologist News.